Hello. I'm here because in my business and so forth, I feel I'm a procrastinator. And I know the answer is just do it. But,
well, that's not our answer. In fact, we want to shake this up in a way that you'll really understand it. Procrastination is far more often a good thing than a bad thing. Write it down. Because when you don't feel like doing something and you do it anyway, you're bucking a current and it's a waste of time. And all you do is get hold of those oars and then tell us the story of how valiant you are and start insisting that you need monuments in your name. When you take the time to line up energy, when you get vibrationally in sync with an idea, procrastination doesn't even enter in. You're so full of inspiration that nobody can keep you from doing it. Haven't you ever had something like that where you wanted it and you knew you wanted it, and even though people who were reasonably wise around you were trying to discourage you, what they said didn't make any difference because you knew that this was the direction for you to go? That's what inspired action is, you see. So when people talk about procrastination, they are trying to orient themselves in an action-oriented world, because everybody's had the experience of, I didn't really feel like doing it, and but I made myself do it, and once I started doing it, then I felt more like doing it. And don't disagree with that. We know that you can not feel like doing something and you can force yourself to do it, and then you can sort of get focused on the idea of it, and then you line up your energy. We're not saying that action cannot sometimes lead to energy alignment, but we will always say action first is always backwards. In moving through procrastination by forcing yourself to do something that you don't feel like doing, you can go through the motions, but you will not get the results, we promise you. So what you want to say is not, oh, I'm just going to bask in my feeling of procrastination forevermore. No one will ever make me do something. That's not the point we're wanting to make. What we want you to say to yourself is, when I feel like this, my action is going to be hard. And sometimes I have to push through because I have a commitment and I said I would. But my dominant intent is to give my thoughts to my dreams so profoundly that I am coming so abundantly and often into alignment with who I really am, that inspiration is the order of my day. Can you imagine if Jerry and Esther had said to the river guide, where does this raft get out of the river? And he would have said, several miles downstream in Fort Collins. And can you imagine if Jerry and Esther had said, well then, we would like to put our raft back on the bus and bus it down the canyon, and we'd like to put it in the river about 50 yards from where we're going to take it out, because we like instant manifestation. And he would say, whatever you want, crazy lady. But I thought you wanted a ride on the river. And what we want you to get the feeling of is, when you are deliberately turning downstream, reaching for relief, when you are deliberately reaching for better feeling thoughts and consistently turning downstream so that you're going with the flow, the things that occur to you occur in a timely manner. You rendezvous with circumstances and events. There begins to get a momentum going that carries you, and you begin to understand that effort and action are irrelevant under those conditions. But until you get lined up, you're doing a lot of action to make things happen. We want you to have action, because action is a delicious way that you enjoy life experience. We just want you to use your action to enjoy what you've created through vibrational alignment, not to try to create with the action. Your leverage is in alignment, you see. So when you say, I don't feel like doing that, we say, then it's not the right time. When you say, well, I could do it, but I'd have to really buck up and make myself do that, then we would say, we would do something else rather than buck up. We would focus on the dream. We would do our best to get excited about the dream. We would think about what we want and why we want it. We would remember where we started. We would try to hook on to the vibrational essence of where we're going. We'd line up the energy. And then we promise you, the word procrastination would never come out of your mouth. Tell us what you feel procrastination about. What's an example?
Cold calls and expanding my business.
All right, so I don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like doing it. I don't want to do it. So you don't do it. So you say, well, so the action right now is not the best thing for me to do because I can feel that I don't want to do it, which must mean my energy is not in alignment. So then you step back from the determination to act, and instead you say, what's this about anyway? Why am I even doing this business? Well, because I believe that it's of value, and I think that it adds value to others, and it certainly will add value to me. And when I first heard about it, I remember feeling excited about it, and I thought that it was something that I could do. And I remember thinking that it is something that I would like to apply myself to, and that as I did apply myself, that it could net me a good return, and it would provide me an avenue to do less of some of the other things that I'm not enjoying so much and more of the things that I am wanting. And I thought it felt good. It felt so refreshing to me, and I remember that feeling of wanting to do it. And just in that much conversation, your feeling of procrastination is gone. There was just that little bit of dialogue lined you up, and now not only did it line you up with being able to do the action, it lined you up with an action that will be productive when you do it. That's the difference. When you make yourself do something that you don't want to do, you're just banging around the hard way, and that's why next time you don't want to do it either. That's why they call them cold calls. You're hanging out there. It is. Nothing's warmed them up. The energy's not in alignment. The universal fairies of the universe haven't set things into circumstances and events. You're not inspired to the right action. You rendezvous with the wrong person. You get the result that you don't want, and you say, hey, I don't like that, and we don't blame you. That's not who you are. That's not what it's about. That's not what you signed on for. You signed on to dream and expand and refresh and improve. That's what you signed up for, you see. Yes.
Well, I thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, I have more questions. It's often said
Sorry,
that...
there isn't time.
Yes, there is. We can make it. It's said that we as humans only use 10% of our brain.
That much.
Well, that's the question is, what do we need to do to wake up or ignite the other 90%? Is that something that's doable, achievable?
Yes. Whoever was saying that may or may not have been talking about the actual rockets firing in the physiology of the brain. In other words, they might have strapped some contraption to someone to see what was firing and what wasn't firing. But if we were to make that statement, and we don't disagree with it, we would say it's because when you are not in alignment with who you are a fraction of the being that you are. And when you take the time to get into alignment with who you are, now you're operating from this full level. In other words, Esther is demonstrating here what it's like to be connected with source energy. In other words, she is allowing a fuller part of that infinite intelligence to flow through her. And if you walked around with her all day, every day, you'd notice the difference. In other words, sometimes 10% is here, sometimes 100% is here.
Okay.
Sometimes 50% is here. It just sort of depends on what subject she's focused upon and how much in alignment she is allowing. She said to Jerry the other day, and she really meant this, she said, I know I sound like a schizophrenic because I tell you how I feel, and then I realize how I want to feel, and I focus on how I want to feel, and before I know it, that's how I feel. In other words, you have the option of being as little of who you are or as much of who you are in every moment in time. And we think that's the best way to approach that. Anybody that focuses on anything without resistance will find the genius of the thought. That's what genius is. It's focusing upon a subject without resistance and allowing law of attraction to bring you all of the information that you are asking for. Focus without resistance and find out how brilliant you are.
So if somebody would say an average student of math, and
an average student of math doesn't care about math.
Could somebody get to a point where they're a math genius?
They'd have to want it. In other words, an average student of math is somebody who didn't go there because they wanted to be there. Their parents made them go. The system made them go. So they're going through the motions, but they don't care about it. And so the universe is never going to assist them into that. Where someone who is intoxicated by the idea of it, who is enthralled by the numbers of it, who loves the idea of the science of it, who wants to integrate the formula so that it can be implied in endless ways, someone that has a passion for it, they're going to get tuned in, tapped in, turned on. And the genius of mathematics is going to flow through them. It's like the comedian with timing. You call some of them masters or brilliant, even though they're telling jokes. But they're telling them from broader perspective. They're tuned in, tapped in, turned on. The basketball genius who has the timing and an understanding and the intuitiveness to know which way you're going to go so he can zig and zag in opposite ways. Who has the control of his physical body. Who can tell the spatial relationship between where he is and where the goal is, and has the ability to integrate the knowledge of his own muscles and the thrust and strength and force and factor in gravity and all of that stuff in order to put that ball right where it belongs. None of that came out of the human mind. It's all coming from being in vibrational alignment with source energy, you see. The surgeon who is operating, who is really flying blind. In other words, when they tell you they're practicing medicine, they're not kidding. They don't have a clue really what's going on in your physical body. But some of them are intuitively inspired. Some of them have the resources there, and they get into vibrational alignment with source, and wonderful things flow through them. The musician, the artist, every single one of you, no matter what it is that you are about, you have the ability to be genius if it is your desire. But what goes wrong is other people have the gall to think that they have the right to choose your disciplines, to choose for you. And when you allow others to choose and you jump through their hoops, you rarely become anything more than mediocre. Because the mediocrity is about trying to jump through their hoops rather than getting in alignment with who you are. Feel the difference. So you're living life and you're throwing it over, and you're living life and you're throwing it over, you're living life and you're throwing it over. Rockets of desire shooting out of you all day, every day. There is an incredible, genius, masterful, productive, prosperous, healthy, vital you already over there calling you forward. And when you do something because you should, you don't go. When you do something because somebody else wants you to, you don't go. When you go because it feels good to you, you go. When you follow your own inspiration rather than being prodded by someone else's motivation is the difference between alignment or not, which is the difference between power or not, which is the difference between abundance or not, which is the difference in, it's the difference in everything, you see.
Okay.
You have the ability in every moment to use 100% of you. And you're doing it every time you feel exhilaration, every time you feel appreciation, every time you feel love. So imagine getting focused on something that matters to you, like the stock market, or like a craft, or like achieving something, or like painting something. Imagine choosing something that matters to you and getting tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and letting 100% of you focus on whatever that subject is. Not only will you achieve massively, and not only will others find you amazing, you will love every moment of involvement under those conditions, which is what it's all about anyway.